All right, aiming for those top ranks in the UPSC, right? We're here to help you sift through the daily news and really pull out what matters, especially for you.
It's the 24th of January already. Time flies when you're prepping for the exams.
Doesn't it? Okay, let's jump right into it. This first one might make you think a bit next time you're at the airport. It's about the user development fee.
Ah, the UDF, that extra bit we see on our tickets.
Exactly. So the Airport Economic Regulatory Authority, AERA for short, they're the ones under scrutiny right now for how they're calculating this fee.
And you know this is serious stuff because it's reached the Public Accounts Committee, the PPA.
Right, so it's not just about airports and money anymore. It's a question of governance, accountability, those big themes the UPSC loves to test.
Exactly.
So, quick recap for everyone. The AERA, they regulate the major imports in India, the ones handling, over 35 lakh passengers annually?
That's right. They set the tariffs, try to boost competition, and the idea is to protect us, the passengers.
In theory, at least.
Well, there's a catch, though. AERA doesn't handle all airports.
Oh, right.
Airports Authority of India, AAI, they take care of the rest.
See, it's these little details, the distinctions, they could really trip you up in the exam.
Definitely.
And, before we move on, make a note of the AERA chairman. I think it's SKG Rahade. Appointments like that, they often show up in the questions.
Good point.
Okay, let's shift focus now. From airports to something a lot of people deal with, eye health. Some promising new research is offering hope for Stargardt disease.
This is where public health and personal stories intersect, a classic UPSC theme. So Stargardt, it's inherited, causes vision loss right in the center of your field of vision. It's linked to the ABCA4 gene and how your body deals with vitamin A.
So picture this. You're young, maybe in your 20s, and things start to get blurry. You're sensitive to light, colors are harder to see. That's the reality for folks with Stargardt.
And it hits males more often, too.
Now, here's the UPSC relevant part. Stargardt affects something like 1 in every 8 to 10,000 people. That's a significant number when you think about India's population.
Absolutely. Ties into healthcare infrastructure, social welfare programs, big topics you need to know inside and out.
For sure. Now, here's a point to ponder. There's no cure for Stargardt yet, but the disease itself doesn't affect how long you live.
Right. It impacts the quality of vision, not the lifespan itself.
Think about the social impact, though. Education, jobs, just overall quality of life. This is ripe for those deep analytical questions the UPSC is known for.
Couldn't agree more. And speaking of important events, tomorrow is a big one for Indian democracy, the 15th National Voters' Day.
Commemorating the Election Commission of India's foundation.
Right.
Back in 1950, just a day before India became a republic.
Can't forget those key dates.
Absolutely. And for all our listeners prepping for the UPSC, remember electoral processes, the election commission, and voter demographics. These are HOT topics for the exam. Always come up.
National Voters' Day, it's all about reminding us that each vote matters, raising awareness, encouraging everyone, especially young voters, to participate.
And they've got a catchy slogan this year, too. Nothing like voting, I vote, for sure.
All right, let's take a trip back in time now, all the way to ancient Egypt. Believe it or not, spotted hyenas are back in southern Egypt.
After 5,000 years, talk about a comeback.
It's incredible. And, for the largest member of the hyena family, they're pretty amazing. They hunt, scavenge, have incredible night vision, really adaptable.
And they live in these complex social structures, clans they're called, led by females, no less.
Now, this might surprise you. They might look like dogs, but hyenas are closer related to cats and civets.
Yeah, it's a common misconception.
So thinking about the return to Egypt, what's their conservation status?
The IUCN currently lists them as least concern, but their return definitely raises questions. How do we manage their population now? How do we prevent conflict with humans? Ensuring their survival, that's key. All right, from ancient Egypt, let's shift to a region closer to home, Kashmir. This isn't about politics, though. This time it's about trees. The iconic Chinar trees are getting a high-tech upgrade.
Geo-tagging and QR codes, pretty cool, right?
It is. So these Chinar trees, they're more than just pretty to look at. They hold deep cultural significance in Kashmir, and they could live for hundreds of years.
They even change colors with the seasons. Really adds to the region's beauty.
It does. And for your exam notes, remember the J&K Forest Research Institute? They're the ones leading this project. The goal is to create a database, monitor the health of the trees, and work on long-term conservation strategies.
This touches upon environmental policy, the role of technology in governance, and protecting cultural heritage. All relevant for the UPSC, no doubt.
For sure. And here's an interesting tidbit. Chinar wood, sometimes called lace wood, is used for making furniture.
It's quite beautiful, very intricate patterns. So you see, it's not just about the environment. It's art, culture, economics, all intertwined.
Hold on tight, because we're about to talk about something explosive. Mount Ibu in Indonesia. It's been erupting over 1,000 times this month.
Over 1,000.
That's right. And this is where your geography and disaster management knowledge comes in. Mount Ibu is what's called a stratovolcano. It's part of the Pacific Ring of Fire.
Stratovolcanoes, those are the ones with the steep conical shapes, formed from layers of lava and ash.
Exactly. And they're known for those, well, explosive eruptions.
Makes sense.
Oh, quick fact for you. Stratovolcanoes make up about 60% of the world's individual volcanoes. That kind of comparative data is good to have up your sleeve for the exam.
You never know when it might come in handy.
Okay, from fiery volcanoes to something a bit more, shall we say, ceremonial. Kerala's only tribal king is set to participate in the upcoming Republic Day parade.
Really? Who is that?
His name is Raman Rajabanan. He represents the Mannan community, an indigenous group living in the Idukki district of Kerala.
Fascinating. Tell me more about them.
Well, they have their own distinct culture. They've got a Tamil-influenced dialect, a matrilineal system of inheritance, and even their own unique traditions, like how they elect their king.
So how does this relate to the UPSC syllabus?
Well, for one, they've recently shifted from living within forest areas to government-allotted plots near the Periyar Tiger Reserve. This brings up questions about tribal rights, conservation efforts, government policies. How do we balance protecting both people and the environment?
It's always a delicate balance.
And don't forget their traditional art form called Menangkuthu. Art and culture, that's always a potential topic in the UPSC. Having these specific examples can really set you apart.
Good reminder.
Okay, from culture, let's move on to a government program that focuses on empowering girls. The Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana, or SSY for short, have been running for 10 years now. It's a big part of the Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao campaign.
SSY. Right, I've heard of that. It's a savings scheme for girls, isn't it?
It is. Basically a special savings account meant for girls under 10 years old. You can open one at post offices and banks all over the country. A classic social welfare program, the kind the UPSC might ask about.
And they like to test if you're keeping up with the latest changes, right?
Absolutely. So, big news. There were some significant changes to the SSY rules just recently. October 1st, 2024, to be exact.
Ah, see, gotta stay updated.
You bet. And don't forget about the nitty-gritty details. The UPSC loves those. Eligibility criteria, deposit limits, the fact that the account matures after 21 years, the interest rates, options for partial withdrawal, even the tax benefits under Section 80C. It's like a treasure trove of potential exam questions, especially in economics and social welfare.
A lot to unpack there.
There is. Okay, last one for this part, and it might be lurking in your kitchen right now. The EU is proposing a ban on PFAS. Ever heard of them?
PFAS. Rings a bell. Aren't those the forever chemicals?
The very same. Man-made, and they don't break down in the environment. We're talking non-stick cookware, cosmetics, even some food packaging.
Not the best things to have around, I imagine.
Definitely not. And this is where things get really important for the UPSC. It's all about the impact on health. Studies have linked PFAS exposure to all sorts of issues: lower fertility, developmental problems, hormone disruptions, even certain cancers. This ties right into public health and environmental pollution in India. Big themes for the exam.
And a global issue, too, clearly.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, PFAS are now included in the Stockholm Convention, that international treaty aimed at eliminating or restricting these harmful chemicals. Shows that there's growing awareness worldwide and that environmental challenges don't stop at borders.
They really don't.
Okay, one last topic, and this one takes us to the vastness of space. The Chandra X-ray Observatory, it's been working with the James Webb Space Telescope, and they've discovered a rather peculiar black hole. This discovery is giving scientists clues about how supermassive black holes form, way back in the early universe.
Fascinating stuff. I always forget, what exactly is the Chandra Observatory again?
Well, it's one of NASA's great observatories, a powerful X-ray telescope, launched back in 1999. Basically, it allows us to see the hottest, most energetic parts of the universe.
So like what?
Think exploding stars, massive clusters of galaxies, and of course those enigmatic black holes.
Makes sense. So how does this tie back to the UPSC?
Well, it's about understanding Chandra's capabilities, what it contributes to our understanding of the universe. You can even connect it to India's own space program, our ambitions for scientific discovery.
Makes sense.
And here's a fun fact to leave you with. Chandra orbits Earth at a distance of about 139,000 kilometers.
Wow.
That's over a third of the distance to the moon. Just shows the incredible scale of these space observations.
Absolutely mind-boggling. Back again for more, eh? Hope you're taking notes, future civil servants, because we're diving straight back into those current affairs that the UPSC just loves.
Yep, still on the 24th of January, 2025. Plenty more to unpack. So remember those great observatories we talked about?
Hubble, Chandra, that lot.
Yeah. Well, there's another one that deserves a spot in your UPSC arsenal. The Hubble Space Telescope. Still going strong after all these years.
Decades of stunning images, and it keeps giving us new discoveries.
That's what I love about it. Didn't it recently help astronomers find a whole new type of stellar explosion?
It did, and it's pretty dramatic. They're calling it an electron capture supernova.
Okay, break that down for me.
Picture a star, say 8 or 9 times the mass of our sun. It's reaching the end of its life, running out of fuel.
Like a giant cosmic time bomb.
In a way, yeah. Normally, a star that size would fight against collapsing by fusing elements in its core. But in this case, the core gets so dense, so packed, that the electrons get forced into the atomic nuclei.
Whoa, sounds intense.
It is.
Huh.
That causes the core to collapse incredibly fast, and bam, supernova.
And this kind of supernova, this electron capture one, it was something scientists had theorized about, but never actually observed, right?
Exactly. So it's a great example of how new observations can either prove or disprove scientific theories. And that's something the UPSC loves to ask about the evolution of scientific knowledge.
Okay, so we've got this, well, pretty amazing stellar explosion happening out there. What's the takeaway for someone trying to crack the UPSC?
Think bigger picture. This discovery, it highlights the importance of space exploration, the technology we need to make these observations, connected to India's space program, our ambitions in that field. Understanding how stars live and die, it all adds to our scientific knowledge. It matters.
It's all connected. All right, from the vastness of space, let's zoom back to Earth. Specifically, international trade. Remember those U.S.-China trade tensions we touched on earlier?
Yeah, those have been simmering for a while now.
Well, big news. A new trade deal has been announced between the two, aimed at easing those tensions, promoting more cooperation.
Wow, that's significant. A U.S.-China trade deal, that's going to send ripples throughout the global economy.
Huge implications. And for our future policymakers listening in, think about what this means for India.
That's the key question. How does this deal affect India's trade relations with both the U.S. and China? New opportunities, new challenges. And how will it impact specific sectors? Manufacturing, technology, agriculture, all of those could be affected.
It's like a giant economic chess game, figuring out where all the pieces land. Okay, let's shift gears again. This time, health and technology. AI-powered diagnostic tools are really getting traction, particularly in radiology.
AI is revolutionizing healthcare, no doubt. Algorithms that can analyze medical images, X-rays, CT scans, MRIs with incredible accuracy, sometimes even better than human radiologists.
That's both impressive and a little bit, unsettling. Are doctors going to be replaced by robots?
It's not about replacement, it's about augmentation. Think about India's healthcare system. Huge population, limited resources, especially in rural areas.
So these AI tools could help fill the gap, make accurate diagnosis more accessible.
Exactly. But there's a whole ethical side to consider, too. How do we make sure these AI tools are fair, that they're reliable, and that everyone can access them? Those are questions the UPSC might throw at you, especially in the ethics paper.
Technology is a powerful tool, but it comes with responsibility. Speaking of things that can be both powerful and dangerous, the spread of misinformation online, especially on social media, it's a growing concern.
It's a global problem, no doubt. Information overload, and it's getting harder to distinguish what's true and what's not.
It's like everyone's become an instant expert, sharing their opinions and facts without checking if they're actually true. How does this relate to the UPSC, though?
Think about the impact on how we govern, on public debate, on social harmony. If everyone's believing different versions of reality, how can we make informed decisions as a society? How do we promote media literacy? Critical thinking? Those are questions the UPSC might want you to tackle.
We need a whole new skill set to navigate this information jungle. All right, last one for this part. Let's head north, way north, to the Arctic. The rate of ice melt happening there due to climate change, it's alarming.
It's a stark reminder that climate change is happening now, and the consequences are far-reaching.
It's not just polar bears losing their habitat, is it?
Not even close. Rising sea levels, coastal erosion, changes in weather patterns, disruptions to ocean currents, loss of biodiversity, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, pun intended.
And this is a global issue, so how does it specifically relate to India?
India has a huge coastline, a lot of people dependent on agriculture, and a rapidly growing economy. We're very vulnerable to the effects of climate change.
So for the UPSC, it's not just about understanding the science of climate change, it's about the political, economic, and social dimensions as well.
Exactly. Be prepared to discuss international agreements like the Paris Agreement, India's own National Action Plan on Climate Change, and the steps being taken towards renewable energy and sustainable development.
It's a lot to process, but crucial information for anyone who wants to serve in India's civil services. All right, ready for the final stretch. Still plenty to cover from the 24th of January.
Let's wrap up this deep dive and make sure you've got all the insights you need.
Okay, this one's interesting. It's about using blockchain technology for, well, governance.
Blockchain and government sounds futuristic.
It does, right?
Yeah.
But think about it. Blockchain's all about transparency, security. It can't be tampered with easily. That could be huge for streamlining government processes, making things more accountable.
Makes sense. Less room for shady dealings.
Exactly. Imagine land records stored on a blockchain. Easy to verify, way harder to commit fraud, or even voting. Every vote recorded securely, transparently.
So potentially less corruption, more efficient systems, and people might actually trust government institutions more.
That's the idea. And those are all key aspects of good governance, which, you guessed it, the UPSC loves to ask about.
Can't escape it. Okay, let's shift gears a bit to a global issue that needs a lot of attention, the refugee crisis.
It's a tough one. Millions of people displaced from their homes, conflict, persecution, and now, increasingly, climate change.
A lot of factors at play.
What kind of questions might the UPSC ask about this, you think?
They might want you to analyze the root causes, the impact on international relations, the ethical considerations of providing aid, how to protect refugees, that kind of thing.
And remember, India has its own history with refugees, especially from neighboring countries. Knowing our policies, the challenges we face, it's all relevant.
Good point. And don't forget those international organizations, the UNHCR, what they do, the obstacles they face, it's all connected.
Okay, from a global challenge to something closer to home, the Indian economy. Specifically, the rise of the gig economy. It's a hot topic.
It is changing the way we think about work, especially with unemployment and how people's needs are evolving.
So for those who might not be familiar, what exactly do we mean by gig economy?
Think short-term freelance gigs, the kind you often find through online platforms. Your ride-hailing drivers, food delivery folks, online freelancers, all part of it.
It seems like it has pros and cons, right? Flexibility and income on one hand, but job security and workers' rights on the other.
You hit the nail on the head. The UPSC might ask about the implications for employment, labor laws, social security, how it affects people's well-being. Is it empowering, or does it create more inequality? Tough question.
It's a complicated issue. No easy solutions. All right, last topic for today. Food security.
Can't forget the basics. A growing population, climate change threatening our crops, food prices going up. Making sure everyone has access to nutritious, affordable food, it's a huge challenge.
What should UPSC aspirants be aware of when it comes to policies?
Well, India has several initiatives in place. The public distribution system, which provides subsidized food grains to those in need. The National Food Security Act, guaranteeing a certain amount of food to a large part of the population.
And there's also the focus on sustainable agriculture, reducing waste, using technology to improve food production and how we get it to people.
Absolutely. Food security, it's interconnected with the environment, economics, social factors. It's not just about growing enough food, but making sure everyone can access it, afford it, A&D, that it's nutritious.
A lot to consider. And with that, we've reached the end of our three-part deep dive into the events of January 24th, 2025. We covered a lot of ground, from space to the gig economy, the refugee crisis, and of course, making sure everyone has enough to eat.
We analyzed the news, pulled out the key points, and hopefully gave you a framework to think about these issues in more depth. But remember, this is just the beginning. To succeed in the UPSC, you need dedication, critical thinking, and the ability to connect seemingly different topics.
So stay curious, stay informed, and keep studying. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into the events shaping our world. Good luck on your UPSC journey.